Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I'm going to show you some basic things. I've talked to you about the circle of fifths, but I've never had one in here, so I did bring one in today. But I want to show you some basic things about the keyboard first before I get into that. Then you'll understand it better. There is something called enharmonic notes. I've gone over it before, but it's important that you understand it because it'll help you to understand how under certain circumstances, if you have a lot of sharps, you can play flats, or if you have a lot of flats, you can turn them into sharps on the same piece, but that's something we're going to get to. So here's your basic keyboard. It's practically full size, and I say full size in terms of the number of the keys. There are 2 keys lacking, but I didn't have room to put them in, and we're not dealing with notes down that low anyway. An enharmonic note is a note that can be either a sharp or a flat, depending upon how you play it. So let me show you this. Here's your middle C. Everything seems to start from a middle C. On the keyboard, I think maybe it's the most important note because it's almost halfway, not exactly, but almost halfway in the keyboard. And everything to the right of it is a treble clef. Everything to the left of it is a bass clef. Now, woodwinds play, for the most part, in the treble clef. I know of one that can do bass as well, but I'm not dealing with that now. So here's your middle C. That middle C is halfway between a treble line of notes or a bass line of notes. And so you can do it. This would be treble clef. This would be bass clef. So here's your C. D, E, F, G, right here, 5 steps. And then you have a sharp. That would be the sharp. Then another 5 steps starts with G. It starts on the same note that you stopped on. G, A, B, C, D. That's, you add another sharp. And then another 5 steps when you start with a note that you stopped on, D, E, F, G, A. That would be 3 sharps. A, B, C, D, E, 4 sharps. Now, recorders can't play that much in terms of the sharps, but that's the way it is. So the enharmonic notes is this. Here is a G right here. If that G is sharped, this is the sharp note because the black keys are basically sharps and flats, although there might be some circumstances when they're not. Usually they are. So here's your G sharp right here, but that's the same note as an A flat. If you're proceeding down, then they would be flatted. This note can be an A flat if you're playing this A and you want to flat it, or it can be a sharp if you're playing a G and you want to sharp that. It's the same tone, but it's flat to one note and it's sharp to another note. And so we can go up and down the scale that way. Let's say we are talking about a D. A D sharp is right here, but it's also an E flat right there. And so D sharp, E flat. So when you get to the notes where there are no black ones in between, you're getting into half steps. Here's the B and here's the C. Well, if you want to write let's see, F flat, you're playing this note here. You're playing the B. C, D, E, F. Okay, F. F flat is going to be an E. E sharp's going to be an F. So you can even get the enharmonics in half steps, although you don't usually see it, but it's there. So any note can become a sharp to one side and a flat to another side. And remember, I showed you every 5 notes you get a new key. You get a new key and a new set of sharps and flats. So let me take this down for a minute, and then I will show you the circle of fifths. Here's the circle of fifths. You know, a lot of teachers don't talk about the circle of fifths. I took woodwinds lessons. I started studying music when I was very young. I wanted to. It was my choice, and my parents let me do it. And I took from a piano for 3 years. Now, I'm not a great piano player, but I'm glad that I had that training because I know about the piano, even though I don't play it very much. And so at any rate, I never heard about the circle of fifths. When I switched over to the woodwinds and I started studying woodwinds, I went for years and no one ever mentioned the circle of fifths. I got into an orchestra one time and the piano player was talking about the circle of fifths. I didn't know what they were talking about. So I had to learn a lot of that on my own. But this is the circle of fifths. Your sharps and your flats. The sharps to the right, the flats to the left. This is your C, no sharps and flats. You go up 5 steps and you get to the G, 1 sharp, and that sharp is an F. And you go another 5 steps, you get to the D, and you add another sharp. You don't get rid of the sharp, you just add to the ones that you already have and add 1 extra every 5 steps. So this is D to A to E, E to C, C flat, and B. Now, when you get to a situation where you have a lot of flats and you have a lot of sharps, all of them can be enharmonic notes. So you can switch and have one note that was a sharp be a flat. You can change, the scales are the same. And here you have G flat and you have F sharp. Now here you have like 6 flats and you have 5 or 6 sharps. But when you're working with enharmonics, one mimics the other. You could actually switch the keys. Here's a D flat, here's a C sharp. This D flat has, my glasses aren't picking this up too well, but anyway, there's about 5 flats there. And the C sharp, there are like 6 sharps, but they're the same scale. Why? Because they're all enharmonic notes. So I just wanted to show you that. So the flats are to the left, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and the sharps are to the right, C, G, D, A, E, and B. That B is the same as a C flat. This D flat is the same as that C sharp. That's what the circle of fifths is. Now, as a student, I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I want you to know what it is, but I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to it because it doesn't really matter in terms of your playing. If a music is written in sharps, you play it as sharps. You don't get concerned about the fact that you could switch it to flats if you wanted to. You just play it the way that the music is written. So I'll take this down and we'll switch this to one side here. Here is that middle C, halfway between the treble clef and the bass clef. And it's right here on a keyboard, which is pretty much in the middle. Now, I don't have a whole set of keys here, but right in the middle. And so this starts everything, C, D, E, F, G, and then you switch to A. There's no P or Z or anything like that because you can't hear it. If you're hearing something above that G, you're hearing the A, and the A is the next that we can hear. Now, animals can hear more than that, but C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Or if you want to start at the A and follow the alphabet through, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then where are you? You're back to the A again. Or if you start at the C, when you get to the G, you switch to the A. You're up here, this is an octave higher, it's a G, you switch to an A, because that's actually what we hear. Now, here's the keyboard, C, D, E, F, G, 1 sharp, G, A, B, C, D, 2 sharps, D, E, F, G, A, 3 sharps. But it all starts, you see, with that middle C. If you're doing flats, 5 steps down, C, B, A, G, F. F, we have 1 flat. It's the B flat, but it's in the key of F. F is 1 flat. And then you go down from there. E flat is the next one. A flat is the next one. And so that's the way that it goes. If I can show it to you on a keyboard, and if I can show it to you by graphing it out, it'll be easier for you to understand. Now, where are these sharps and flats located? Okay, so C has no sharps and flats, but the first is the key of G. G has 1 sharp, and the sharp is F. And that means every octave of the F is sharp, not just the high F, which happens to be here, but the low F is also sharp. The key of D has two sharps, and the ones that are sharp is going to be the F sharp. You don't lose that. You add the C sharp. Now, on the last segment, I played Worthy the Lamb That Was Slain from the Messiah. That's in the key of D. A lot of the Messiah music is written in the key of D, but D is a fairly easy key for the recorders to play. Although when I played it, I didn't have a chance to tell you because we ran out of time. I changed some fingerings and used some of my own fingerings and some of the fingerings which are adaptable from other instruments. When I played a C sharp on that piece, I always used the saxophone fingering for it. When I played the D, higher D, I always used the flute fingering. It was just easier for me to do that. So anyway, the key of D has two sharps. Here's the F sharp and here's the C sharp. The key of A has three sharps. Now, normally the recorders wouldn't play that, but it's F sharp, G sharp, and C sharp. So here we go. A is, here's your G sharp up here, and here's your F sharp right there, and your C sharp. The key of E would have four sharps. The recorders wouldn't play it, but F, G, C, and D, all of those four. And I've put them on the staff so you can see where they are. These are the higher ones. On the lower part of the staff, it would be the same thing. It doesn't matter what octave it is. If something is sharp, it's sharp for the entire measure, and whether it's a higher octave or a lower octave, it's still a sharp. Like, for example, here's your F sharp here, so it's going to be sharp down here. There's another F down here. I didn't write it in because I didn't want it to get it confused, but it would be sharped as well. And four sharps, five sharps, you can get a lot, F, G, C sharp, D, A. Now you've got, this is the key of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sharps. And this is where the enharmonics come in, because a lot of those sharps could be flats if you were writing it a little differently. I just want you to kind of see this so you have an understanding. The keys that the recorders can play most easily is the key of C, which has no sharps or flats, so you can take it right up. I only put one octave, the low C up to the mid-range C back down again. I could go right up to the higher octave and it would still play it. D is two sharps starting on the D. D is the root note, and you have your F sharp and you have your C sharp. I brought it up just to one octave, and when it goes down, then you have another C sharp right there, and you have another F sharp right there. Now, the key of G is got one sharp in it. That's the F sharp. And so the F sharp is right here, and again right here, going up and down the scale. And the key of F is a flat, just one flat on the F, but the recorders do well with that. And it starts with F, the root note. This is B flat, that's going to be flatted. You're going up the scale, you're coming back down the scale, it's flatted again. So you have those flats, and there is you can get a B flat on a higher, I didn't write it in, but you can get it on a higher octave. All of the octaves of a note are also flatted and sharp. And you need to remember also, if you have a flat or a sharp, it goes for the entire measure. It's not just for one or two notes, it goes for the entire measure. And then if you want to change it, you just put in a sign, the sharp sign or the flat sign, and you can change whatever you want to change. So here we have it. I got it shown in another graph here. F, one flat, the B flat. Two flats on the key of B flat. This one here, this B flat and E flat. In the key of E flat, you have three flats, B, E, and A. This is the way that it'll appear on a signature, on a key signature. That's what you're going to see. And then A would be the four flats. D flat is going to be five flats, and recorders would not play that. G flat is going to be six flats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then C flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, an octave is only 8 notes, and one note is an octave higher or lower than the other note, but the two notes are going to be the same except for octaves, so you get practically every single note flatted in the octave. Now in the sharps, G is 1 sharp right here, D is 2 sharps, 3A is 3 sharps. It's a little hard to play it on the recorder. It can be done. E is 4 sharps, and that becomes harder still. B is 5 sharps right here. Then you're looking at almost the entire octave being sharp, all of the notes in the octave being sharp. 6 sharps and 7 sharps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you can make those into enharmonic notes by flatting them if you wanted to, if you're writing them in a different direction, going up instead of down. So just to take a look, here we have B, C, D, E. There's a half a step here. This would be the F. There's a half a step there. This is a C. This would be the C sharp. This would be the D right here. This would be a D sharp would be right here, and this would be the E. Now, sometimes I take a session and just teach you how to play those notes, because you're doing a half step here, you're doing a half step here, and the fingering of the notes is kind of tricky. I'm not going to do that today. We don't have the time for it, but just to show you that range of notes, and you have to know how to play each note. When I play a C sharp, a lot of times I'm going to use the saxophone fingering. If I play an F sharp, I use regular recorder fingering, but that's pretty much the same as the saxophone fingering. So just to have you see what it's like on a keyboard, I think it's good to know what the keyboard is. I don't think it's wise to just take piano lessons if you don't want to take piano lessons, but you need to know something about how these notes are set up. If you know how these notes are set up, then you can understand where they come from, what's coming. Now, for the scale, I went over this and I'm going to go over it again. C to D is 1 step. D to E is 1 step. E to F is a half step. There's no black note in there. It's a half step. F to G is a step. G to A is a step. A to B is a step. B to C is a half step. There's no black note in there. So for a regular major scale, you're going to go to step, step, half step, 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 half step. And that's for all of the major scales. So if you start on a different note, say you start on the D, here's your step, and for another step, you have to go from an E to an F sharp. That makes that a full step, and that's followed by a half step. That half step is from that F sharp to that G. That's a half step. So that formula for major scales is the same, and the thing that makes it different is the note that you start on. If you start on a C, there is no sharps and flats. It works out that way. If you start on the key of G, then you have your step, step, and here's your half step. You follow that procedure. You follow, it's like a formula, and you follow it. And where the half steps fall determines where you get your sharps and your flats. And that's how it comes to be that music is the way it is, that you have your half steps, your whole steps, your sharps and your flats, and it all fits together. It does actually work very well, but you have to remember that you have to know a little bit about the keyboard to understand that. Now I'm going to show you this. I'll probably close with this. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all flats. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have sharps. Well, what makes them enharmonic? Maybe I need to show you this on the keyboard, but this C sharp is the same as this D flat. This D sharp is the same as this E flat. And going up the scale, when you get to when you get to this note here, this is a C sharp, it's the same as the D flat because they're all enharmonic notes. What's flat on one side will be sharp to the other side. And I wrote this out so you can see this, you know. F sharp is going to be the same as the G flat. And G sharp is going to be the same as the A flat. It may be a little hard to see, but if you can understand that notes can be sharp or they can be flatted, and if you have a lot of sharps or if you have a lot of flats, they can become the same tone. The tone is going to be the same, but whether they're a sharp or a flat depends upon how you write the music, or if you're going up a step, or if you're going down a step. That's the way that it works out. I just wanted to have you see that. I don't need to have you see this. This is the same thing. And the scales themselves can be pretty complicated. Here's a group of scales. Now, this is one of my old saxophone books that I took it from. Saxophones, clarinets, most of the instruments that have side keys, and you're not just using half holding to get sharps and flats. You can get a lot of really tricky kinds of scales, sharps, flats, and so forth, that can become kind of complicated. But they're also somehow kind of fun to play. This might be a little bit easier to understand, and I'll close with this, I think, because we are kind of running out of time. I just want you to see this, okay? C, C sharp. C sharp and D flat are alike. D sharp and E flat are alike. F is a normal note, but F sharp can be the same as a G flat. And so you run up the scale that way. These are 5 flats, these are 7 sharps. The key of C sharp C sharp major with 7 sharps. The key of D flat major with 6 flats can all be basically the same notes, depending upon how you write them. And I included this keyboard here. F sharp here is going to be the same as a G flat, same note. A flat here is going to be the same as the G sharp here. Let me see. D sharp is going to be the same as the E flat. This would be an E, this would be E flatted, this would be D sharp. So you see that you can get notes that are both flats or sharps depending upon how you write them. And then when you take it all into consideration, you have your circle of fifths. I did the same thing here. I won't go into it much, but you can see the scales here, D flat and C sharp are the same. G flat and F sharp is the same, but you're dealing with a lot of sharps and a lot of flats before it really becomes noticeable. And then the C flat and key of B is the same. Well, I just wanted to show that to you so you have more of an understanding of where the notes come from. So I'm going to close it here. We'll be doing something else next time. Please join me then.